One of my favorite desserts is tiramisu. So I'm gonna make a tiramisu to serve on New Year's Eve that I think is really great. It's a very easy dish, but here's the thing. The way I make it, I actually make it with raw eggs. Now, if you have an issue with raw eggs or you have some concerns about it, you could always buy the ones that are pasteurized or do a double boiler to cook your eggs and then take your meringue and actually put it in the oven or heat it a little bit to actually take away anything that you might think is dangerous. Of course, you could use whipped cream instead, but I prefer the eggs because I think it gives it a little bit more richness without all the fat. And it's just a personal thing, but I think it's a terrific dish. It's really, really good. So I hope you enjoy it. First things first, one of the things that has to happen is we have to have lady fingers that are going to soak in a mixture of coffee and a liquor. So I'm going to go ahead and make some instant coffee here that's a nice strong coffee. This is a really nice coffee. It works out really well. So I'm going to go make it according to the package directions. I've just heated some water. I'm going to add the instant coffee to it. And then I'm going to take some Kahlua, because Kahlua is a nice choice for this. It could be cognac or anything else you like. But you want to have a little bit of alcoholic content because you want that little bit of acidity and that little bite that's going to come with it. So I'm going to put a little Kahlua in here, and that'll give me the little bit of what I want. So I'll put a tablespoon or two of Kahlua in my coffee, and that'll provide the base for my ladyfingers so that they get a lot of texture to them. You want them to be soft and have that nice flavor to them, and that's really what you're looking for. So I'll just put a couple of tablespoons in here, and I'll let it sit. And once that sits for a little while, it kind of comes together with a nice flavor, and I'll be able to use it. So while that's sitting, I'm going to go ahead and start off with my eggs. So as I said, I'm going to start off using eggs, and what I'm going to do is 3 eggs. I'm going to go ahead and crack them and separate them. I want my egg whites separated from my yolks. So I'll go ahead and put the whites in this glass container here, and I'll put the yolks directly over into my stand mixer because I'm going to beat them with all the other ingredients. So I'll go ahead and put them over there. I'll just dump them in, and then I'll go ahead and take my other 2 and do the same thing. I'll just keep going through it until I get them all separated out, and then I can start making the dish. Now this comes together really easily. It's just a little bit of labor intensity that has to go along with it in order to get it going. Once I have my yolks already in here, I'll go ahead and start mixing them with about 1/2 cup of sugar. I just put in some granulated sugar. I like the one that's the sugar in the raw, so it's not further refined and doesn't have the bleach in it, and it gives a lot more flavor. So I'll go ahead and put that 1/2 cup in there along with the eggs, and I'll turn on my stand mixer and start to bring it together until it becomes almost like this pale yellow color. And so I'll just start mixing it. It takes a couple of minutes to get to that point. So I'll just start that mixing. I don't want to make a mess, so I'll start it off slow, and then I'll bring up the speed a little bit. And once it gets to be about this texture and color, this is about where I want to stop. Now I'm going to add in a little bit of vanilla because I want a little bit of flavor to it, so the vanilla will be nice in there. So I'll add a little vanilla to my mix. Just regular vanilla that I bought this one at Costco. It's great for this. Just need a couple of teaspoons will be good. Maybe a 1/2 teaspoon to a teaspoon. You just want a little bit in there to give it a little flavor. Then I want my mascarpone cheese. I just took one of these containers. It's about an 8-ounce container of mascarpone cheese, and I'm going to put it in here. And I just go ahead and put it in entirely into my eggs mixture while it's still mixing. And that's going to mix it together really nicely. So my eggs, my sugar, and my mascarpone is going to be a really nice base for this. So I'll just go ahead and scoop that in, and we'll get that going. So now that I've got my mascarpone in the mix, I'm going to go ahead and just push it down the rest of the way. I've got a little bit there on the edge. I like to get it all out of the container, leave my stand mixer going the whole time. So it's just a little tricky to get it all in there like that. And you make a little bit of mess. It's not the end of the world. It's okay. You can clean up a little bit as you go. But I'll go ahead and just mix this together until it becomes fully incorporated. Maybe turn up the mixing speed just a little bit until it becomes that way. So I'll go ahead and take it out, put it into a bowl, and then clean my stand mixer so I can make my egg whites. So all I've done is just scoop that out into the bowl. I'll go ahead and put my egg whites in here in my clean stand mixer, and I'll start mixing those together to get my really foamy mixture so that I can use this to make it a little bit lighter and airier. So I'll just take my egg whites. These are the 3 egg whites I had a few minutes ago, and I'll just start mixing them. So again, it's a liquid, so I want to be careful. I don't want to spill it everywhere, but I'll start off on a slow speed and get it started. This takes, about 5 minutes or so to get these mixed up and incorporated completely. You want a lot of air mixed in these, so it kind of gets that texture of like a meringue, where you start to get something coming together, and it really feels like it's got some weight to it. So when it comes to be about like this is when I'm done. I'll go ahead and take that out. I think I'm good. You can see how it's kind of got a little texture to it at this point. Lots of airiness built in. It doesn't fall off the paddle anymore, so I'm ready to go. Now this is the mixture I took out before. This is the egg yolks with the mascarpone and the sugar, and I'll go ahead and add 1/2 of my egg whites to it and start mixing those up. Now what you want to do is you want to fold it here. You really want to make sure that you're taking the time to kind of fold it in so you don't lose the airiness of the egg whites, and you start to make a nice sort of mixture here. And this will give it a lot of volume and be really, really soft and nice, and give it a lot of really nice mouthfeel when you get it in your mouth, because it's so soft because of the egg whites that are mixed in there. Once I've got the first half of the egg whites mixed in, and you just take your time and do this, it takes a minute or two to do it. Once you get the egg whites mixed in, I'm going to go ahead and add the second half of the egg whites and get those mixed in as well. The objective here is to get something that's really kind of big and fluffy. So I'll just go ahead and take everything off the paddle, and then I'll scoop out whatever's left in the bowl, and I'll go ahead and just finish it off. So again, this is about folding. And I like to do this in batches to make sure that I leave a little airiness in there. As I add more to it, I want it to be nice and fluffy and airy. I don't want it to kind of fall and be flat and be really thick and heavy. I want it to feel like it's almost a whipped cream. I like to use the eggs because I think the eggs are a little bit lighter, but it almost feels like a whipped cream when you taste it. So as soon as I get all of that mixed in there, I'll go ahead and just start folding and make sure that it's all mixed into my dish so that it comes out really nice. And finally, after a couple of minutes of folding again, I get something that looks like this. Now, this is the texture you want. This is exactly what you want it to be like. This is going to be my filling for the entire recipe. That's it. There is nothing else. So it's just the lady fingers with the coffee mixed in, and then those on top. Now, as far as the lady fingers, what I like to do is I just buy a package of these. The non-sugared ones are better, but these are fine. They'll work just fine. And I like to just put them in like a silicone tray. This is okay with me the way this works. You could, if you want to make it fancier, you could put it in another kind of tray, but this is really what you want to have it looking like. So I'll go ahead and just start taking the lady fingers, and I'll dunk them in the coffee, and that's it. I'll just start putting them on the tray like this. I just want to put a layer of them. This will take about 16 of them to fill up this tray. It's about 8 and 8, and you can kind of squish them in if you need to a little bit. That's okay. You just want to make sure you're using your lady fingers well. If you had a different size tray, you could always cut them a little bit. It doesn't really matter. You just want to make sure they're in there and that they come out really nice. Ultimately, you have this, and this is what your lady fingers look like. Now I'm going to take about half of my mixture and put it on top. So this is going to be a layer. So I start off with my ladyfinger layer, then I put my mascarpone cheese in between with the eggs right in between. I just spread it around so it covers the whole thing. And then as soon as I've got it covered, I'll start with the next layer, which is going to be another layer of the cookies, the ladyfingers with the coffee in it. And that's it. You know, this is that simple to make. So I'll go ahead and I'll finish that off, and now I'll start off with another level of ladyfingers. So I'm going to repeat the same process where I dunk them in the coffee and I put them on. Now you may notice I'm actually putting them at the other way. I'm rotating the angle a little bit, so I've got them at 90 degrees from the first ones I put in. Does it really matter? No, it's just something I like to do. Now somewhere along the way, I didn't make enough coffee. So I go ahead and I heat up some more water and make some more coffee. This happens sometimes, so I'll just go ahead and make a little bit more and put a little more Kahlua in there, and I'll just continue. Does it have to be the perfectly ratioed thing as before? No, of course not. You just want to continue to make these the best you can. So I'll just continue to make some more and put them on there. So, you know, they might taste a little different in places, but wait until the end, you'll see how it kind of works out. So I'll just keep doing this until I fill up the entirety of the tray. So just keep doing it until you get all 16 of the cookies on there, and it really works out pretty well. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just want to lay them out there so they look really nice on there. And the objective is to make sure that every cookie has a little bit of the coffee and the liqueur on it, so it really comes out really nice. Now I'll go ahead and squeeze the last one in here, and I'm basically done. Now you see I still have some coffee left. Now I made too much. So the key here is I'm going to take that coffee and I'm going to go ahead and spoon it over my lady fingers to make it really nice. That's going to make these much softer and much more flavorful. Now, not much of it's going to drip down to the bottom level, but that's okay. This middle level is going to taste so nice, it's going to be delicious. So it's okay like that. And now I'll take the rest of my mascarpone cheese mix and I'll put that on top. Again, just one more layer on here just to make it look really nice, and that just covers it over. So now it's a layered dish, and that's really what's important here. So I just go ahead and lay it on top and go ahead and spread it around, and then I've got everything I need, and this is basically it right here. The only other thing I need to do is add some cocoa powder to the top to give it that final touch. It gives a little bit of chocolatiness too, which people like. It always goes along with it. It makes it look a lot nicer too. So that's pretty much all there is to it. So then all that's left is for me to take some sort of a sifter and put some of my cocoa in it. And that'll allow me to put some cocoa on top of it that looks really, really nice. It gives it that sort of composed, finished look to it. So all I have to do is just put the cocoa in there, and then I'll just go ahead and shift it around until the cocoa covers the entire surface of it. And that's it. Now my dish is done. The only thing I'm going to do is I like to refrigerate it for a little while before we eat it. If it refrigerates for a few hours, it's really much better because all the flavors come together and it gets a really nice sort of composed feeling to it. If you eat it now, and you could, it would be maybe just a little bit less flavorful because the flavors don't all marry together and come together really nicely. So the refrigerator is an important step in this process. So there you go. I will see you in a couple of hours and I will eat you up. No problem with that. And this is what it looks like when it's finished. You get these layers in there that are just really, really nice.